Well, my name is Amanda Richards, and I have a husband and 4 kids. They range in age from 8 to 15. And so I'm going to tell the story of my cancer experience and just how we've seen God through that, and what's been hard, what's been good. So about 3 years ago now, 3 years ago, I had just started getting sometimes a sore throat, sometimes an earache, and it took a while to figure it out. I had an ENT I was going to, but it's smack in the middle of COVID, and you're not going to the doctor if you don't have to. So I went, and he gave me some kind of post-nasal drip medicine, see if this helps. And it didn't, so I waited a little longer. Eventually, we went a couple of times, and every time he thought, well, we could try this, and we could try this. Is it possible it's cancer? And he would say, no, you're too young. And so I am an eternal optimist, and so I was asking because I felt like that's the due diligence thing to do, but I also thought, no way, there's no way this is cancer. Like, we just have to figure it out. So eventually I said, the antibiotic didn't help, the steroid didn't help, the nasal clearing stuff didn't help. So what else could it be? He said, okay, every once in a while, your bone can ossify, your cervical vertebrae can ossify and get a little long and tickle the back of your throat. Let's do a scan for that. And so we went in, and I was asking the tech, who probably shouldn't have, she probably shouldn't have told me everything she told me, but I said, do you see a bone there? Is there something? She said, no, there's no bone there, but I definitely see increased vascularization, and I know enough to know that's probably not good. So when I finally went back with that information to the ENT, he said, this isn't good. He felt around, he felt there's a lump on the back of my tongue. So he sent me to an actual surgeon to talk about. He said, I don't know what it is, but we have to remove it. So they gave me all kinds of statistics. What I walked away with was there are 12 things this could be, and only 4 of them are cancer. So I was like, still probably not cancer. But he agreed we have to remove it, and then we'll know. And the removal was pretty rough. He told me this ahead of time. He was going to have to take off the back portion of my tongue, but then without that you can't swallow. So he's going to have to remove part of my arm, because apparently it's the right texture. And so get that sewed in take the vein, sew that in. It's all both equally amazing and barbaric, but that was the plan. But a couple days before I went into that appointment where he was explaining just how intense this was going to be, a couple days before, so clearly we like coffee in this house, I was making myself coffee, and I always attempt coffee art. You can probably attest that I'm not very good at it, but this day, like always, I attempted to do a flower or something, and usually my thing is I'll attempt some coffee art and go, well, that doesn't look like it, and just plop the rest of the milk in, and that's what I did. I plopped the rest of the milk in. And I called the kids in because I was like, guys, what do you see? I was like, am I just seeing this or not? My kids were like, Mom, that's a weaponized angel. I have 3 boys. They're into weaponry, and they could see it when they saw it. And so it was both just awesome and a little bit left me a little bit shaky. Most people don't get this in their coffee. And immediately, though, 2 scriptures came to mind. Just very clearly, I felt the Lord himself goes before you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. And in Psalm 91, he will command his angels concerning you that you will not strike your foot against a stone. Those just, I wasn't necessarily thinking, okay, what could this mean? I was engulfed in, this is what this means. So, armed with that, with my weaponized angel, I went in and then I got all this news. This is what's coming. It's going to be a lot. So from there, I asked, here are some side things that are just interesting. My grandma was 101 and had been for the last 5 years blind, and so my mom had been her 100% caretaker. She wasn't super free to travel because her mom needed her, and so it's just interesting that God called her home, and in the time it took, so God called my grandma home at 100, a couple days shy of her 102nd birthday. And we got to celebrate her in high fashion, big party to celebrate her. And then it was 2 weeks later that we did this, and my mom was able to move from care for her older blind mom to 4 kids and a husband, my husband. But she did it so gracefully, and we just called her Amy Poppins. Just came in and brought joy and fruit salads. So let's see. We my mom got here. Another side thing that was just so, felt like such a gift. We asked the doctor, can we have this family vacation on the books? We're supposed to go down to Disneyland, and he said, do the family vacation. So we were able to do the surgery. He said, this is the first time I can do the surgery anyway. So it was this beautiful time period, all of February, where we went down to Southern California, went to Disneyland, had time with our other grandma, and then a week later, Northern California, time for my grandma's celebration, and then it was time to buckle down and do the hard thing. So in a side conversation, the surgeon had said, if it's bigger than we think, I will have to go through your chin and break your jaw. I don't think I'll have to do that. As the eternal optimist, I said, then we won't be doing that. So it was 3.1 centimeters and over the midline of my tongue. So what he had also said, I'm going to try to save your nerves. And so the best case scenario would be coming out of this with a little bit of speech therapy, but back to normal in a little bit. Worst case, well, there are worser cases, but worst case scenarios, they break the jaw, cut the nerves, and in the end they had to do all of that. So they did have to go through, cut all the way, open it, and take it out, and that was intense. And cut the nerves, which means that from here on out there's no taste, no muscle function, no feeling on this side. This side I can still taste my coffee. But, and also, clearly speech is just not what it was. So a lot is gone. And it has been hard. It has been hard for my kids. Oh, and when they took out that tumor, they could clearly see it was cancer, and it will, it's the kind of cancer that doesn't go into remission. It'll always be with us, but so will God. So in the meantime, while I was, I had this surgery, and my husband had to hear the news that they had to break my jaw, they had to cut the nerves, they had to, and it was cancer. He was hurting, and church just came around him and just gave us this beautiful, I think within a couple of days, they had just requested letters, scripture, songs, and they were just lifting him up. My husband is a hugger, and he was surrounded by hugs. He was just enveloped by the body, and I'm so thankful for that. It was a hard week of recovery, so it was 3 days in the ICU and then 4 more days of pretty, still pretty rough living. Came home with a feeding tube because I couldn't eat for a couple months. So from there, we did, it did eventually heal enough to where I could be understood and I could get food down. It's not pretty. I'm not a very dainty eater, but I can do life now. So, I think how we've been well cared for, and over and over, I'm just reminded, we live in the land of excellent medical care. There is one place in the world that does neutron therapy, radiation therapy. There used to be 5, but they've all shut down except for this one place in the world that does it, and that's at UW, so 15 minutes from home. And that is the kind of therapy. Oh, and they've been working on devising a way, so all the different types of radiation are a bit confusing, but neutron therapy tends to be biggest bang for the buck, but also fairly destructive to the surrounding cells. So they have been working for the last decade on a way to provide neutron therapy with fewer side effects. And it was just ready in time for me. So I was patient number 2 in the world to get this therapy. And we're hopeful that My surgeon has said 100% you will see this again. And he may be right. We always remind ourselves, yes, he's a very smart man, but God doesn't deal in statistics. So but he also doesn't know what this neutron therapy can provide. That's right. I was struck by over and over how we do live in this place of amazing medical care. But the psalm, it says, some trust in chariots, some trust in horses. We'll trust in the name of the Lord our God. We have the chariots and horses. UW is well equipped, but even more importantly, I just rest in the knowledge that my actual surgeon is God, and He is the one that actually holds my future. So we can move forward with joy. I actually think it's harder for the people around me than it is for me. They're the ones that have to look down the road and picture it. Possibly without me. I plan to be here. But when they think about worst case scenario, that's scary. One thing my husband Jim and I talked about is I wanted him to have permission to hurt. I wanted him to have permission to be afraid, but also not feel like I have to go there with him. You can hurt and I can be okay. Also, I can hurt and you can be okay. So we felt really free to say, this is what I'm afraid of. And this isn't our first bout of learning to trust Jesus. So what might feel like platitudes can also feel like deep, deep truth. To say that God is in control, to say that God is good, is a comfort if you know that it's true. When it's a reminder, it's a comfort. I get when people feel like that's just cheap talk, but it can also be very comforting to know that there is a God who is in complete control, who is far wiser than we are. And he's allowed this. He could have stopped it, and he said, "No, this is okay for my precious Amanda." I can say, but why? But I'm not really tempted to distrust him. I think that's a dark road. I have considered that in the past, and I don't want to go through hard things without him. So I'm going to go ahead and trust that he's good, and that he is in complete control, and that he loves me like crazy.